running from issues, and I don't think in this business you're supposed to run from issues. And the fact that everybody's running from the big elephant in the room involving the WNBA and the latest with Coach Stephanie White of the Indiana Fever going on a little tirade during a post-game press conference because people were accusing her of not supporting her player after Sophie Cunningham was essentially, knocked upside the damn head by DiJonai Carrington, and she didn't speak up fervently enough on behalf of Sophie Cunningham and was complimentary of DiJonai.
Sophie Cunningham get clotheslined by DiJonai Carrington? At the same time, we know that White runs right past her to check on Carrington first, and it's on video for everyone to see. Stick around, because there's another leaked video coming, one that explains exactly why White did that, and it clearly explains why White has it against Cunningham and Caitlin Clark. So here's the real question heading into the playoffs. Does Stephanie White deserve to keep coaching this roster, or should she be fired? Let me know down in the comments below. How are you the head coach on the sideline during the play, covering the game, or coaching the game, and you didn't see the play? I'm just asking. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm like, what do you mean you didn't see the play? Well, you not watching, we saw it. You coaching the game up and down the court. It's your job to coach the game, watch game. How did you not see the play? Fever going on a little tirade during a post-game press conference because people were accusing her of not supporting her player after Sophie Cunningham was essentially, knocked upside the damn head by DiJonai Carrington, and she didn't speak up fervently enough on behalf of Sophie Cunningham and was complimentary of DiJonai Carrington. Officials on the floor call it a flagrant 1 at first, but once they go to review, they upgrade it to a flagrant 2. That means automatic ejection, no debate. The ref looked at the windup, the impact, and the follow rough, and decided this wasn't a basketball play gone wrong. It was excessive and unnecessary. And here's the part that tells you everything. This is Carrington's own building, her own fans, and they start chanting Cunningham's name while Carrington walks off toward the locker room. Cunningham gets up bloodied and furious right in Carrington's face.
About Coach of the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White. People booing her. You had a lieutenant governor invoking himself into the equation or implementing himself into the proceedings, calling for her to be fired, and it's created an uproar.
Tagging the Fever directly, turning a clothesline into a national argument in a matter of hours. Cunningham shut that down fast, pointing out she got ejected for a similar play last year and never once played a race card about it. None of this is new from Carrington either. Go back to the 2024 playoffs, and she pokes Caitlin Clark directly in the eye, leaving her with a black eye that got replayed for a week straight. Add in the flagrant on Skylar Diggins, the hit on Jessica Shepard, and you've got a pattern that's been building for years, not a one-time mistake on a fast break. DJ, yeah, I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously, it's never intentional. Oh, that's not even like the type of player that I am. The foul alone is enough to make anyone furious watching at home. But what Indiana's own head coach did in the seconds right after is what actually turned this into a full-blown fan-based revolt. The image that started the real firestorm isn't even the foul itself. It's what happens right after Cunningham is on the ground bleeding and Stephanie White jogs straight past her to go check on Carrington instead. That's her own player bleeding on the hardwood, and the head coach's first move is to go comfort the woman who caused it. It's all on camera. Broadcast angles catch it clean, and once fans start freeze-framing it, there's no explaining it away. I listened to that whole post-game news conference by Stephanie White. There was no mention of Sophie Cunningham or any support for her own play. Let the call stand. That's Sophie's coach. She never supports Sophie Cunningham. He asked point blank, "How are you the head coach on the sideline coaching the game and you didn't see the play?" Because that's the problem here. Sideline footage shows her body facing the exact direction of the play, her eyes tracking Cunningham the entire time she's sprinting down the floor. So either White is lying, or she's admitting she wasn't watching her own team during a live possession. and neither answer looks good for a head coach in the WNBA. Instead of saying one word about Cunningham's condition, White uses her podium time to defend the player who hurt her. She says, "One of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup, and so I don't oppose the hard foul." Then she adds that she doesn't think Carrington intentionally hit Cunningham across the neck like that. No update on Cunningham, just a defense of the aggression that put her there. God, I wish they'd fire her already. Sync that up with the footage of White jogging past Cunningham, and it's not one bad moment anymore. It's a full pattern playing out in real time from the sideline straight through to the podium. And it didn't stay inside basketball for long either. Indiana Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith posted that the Fever need to let White go, saying, "No solid coach would ever take the side of the opposing team's player who committed a flagrant foul on one of your own players. Terrible coaching. The Fever need to defend their players." Now you've got a sitting lieutenant governor talking about a WNBA coaching decision, and that's not normal. That's a sign of how far this thing traveled online. The word gaslighting starts trending among Fever fans because that's exactly what it feels like watching your coach defend the player who hurt your teammate on national television. Fans felt dismissed, like their anger over watching Cunningham get hurt didn't matter as much as protecting Carrington's image. Then at the next home game, something happens that almost never happens in this league. Fans boo their own coach during introductions. Boo her in her own building in front of her own team. White's response wasn't to reflect, it was to tell critics to go to hell during a pre-game session right after talking about love and grace, which didn't land the way she probably hoped. You had people booing her on our own home court. You talk about coach of the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White. People booing her. You had a lieutenant governor, invoking himself into the equation or implementing himself into the proceedings, calling for her to be fired. And it's created an uproar. None of this reads like a coach who got a bad angle on a fast play. This reads like a coach who picked a side the second it happened and got caught doing it on camera twice back to back. And here's the part that should really worry Indiana fans. This isn't the first time White has picked the player who hurt Caitlin Clark over her own locker room. Not even close. Was Cunningham the first time? Or did Indiana already get a warning months before it happened? Because if you go back earlier in the season, you'll find Alyssa Thomas driving a fist straight into Caitlin Clark's throat during a live game. No ball around, just a closed fist to the neck of the franchise player. It didn't get called a flagrant in real time. It sparked its own outrage cycle online, with fans and analysts calling it one of the dirtiest plays they'd seen all year. And for a few days, White actually sounded like a coach who was furious about it too. At first, White called it absolutely unacceptable and sounded like she was ready to go to war for her point guard. Give it a week, though, and her tone completely flips. Suddenly the conversation isn't about protecting her franchise player anymore. It's about policing how angry her fans are allowed to get. That's a strange hill for a head coach to plant a flag on, especially when the fans are angry because someone punched her best player in the throat. And rather than riding that cash cap and acknowledging the reality of a rising tide lifting all boats, there were some who were resistant to it. They weren't resistant to Caitlin Clark specifically. They weren't resistant to a White star. What they were resistant to was folks acting like the WNBA never mattered with all the hard work that they put forth all of these decades until Caitlin Clark came along. That's where the resentment lies. Now, put her Thomas comments next to her Carrington comments, and the wording is close to identical back then. She said it was exactly right for just playing the game hard. Recycled word for a completely different player and a completely different act of violence. Yeah, Ed is just one of the most competitive and complete players who's ever played the game. She is a point guard mentality, in a power forward body. Her skill set is elite. She reads the game in an elite way, and she makes it challenging because of the way that she sees the floor and because of the way that she's able to find her open teammates and pick her opportunities to go to the rim. I saw in the game the other night, she's the first player to have so many points, rebounds, and I don't know what else. It seemed like every day that we coached her, she was climbing one of those career milestones. And she's one of the best to ever do it. It was, a great thing for me and an honor for me to be able to coach those two. They're going to be Hall of Famers. None of this comes out of nowhere either. White coached both of these women directly at the Connecticut Sun Thomas and Carrington, along with Dana Bonner, for years before she ever got to Indiana. So when she calls this style playing hard, she's not a neutral observer describing basketball. She's describing the exact brand of physical edge of the rules play she coached and built her own reputation on before she ever put on a fever jacket. Think about what that repeated defense actually tells the Indiana locker room. It tells them getting hurt on this team draws less concern from the head coach than the player who did the hurting. Aaliyah Boston watches it happen. Kelsey Mitchell watches it happen. Lexi Hull watches it happen. And now they've all seen their coach make the exact same choice twice in 2 different seasons against 2 different opponents with 2 different players from her old roster. Every time the head coach responds to that with a shrug and a compliment for the other team's toughness, it tells the rest of the league there's no real cost to playing that way against her. Opponents notice which stars get protected by their own bench and which ones don't. And Clark keeps landing in the second category under White. 2 separate incidents, 2 separate opponents, and 1 coach landing on the same side both times. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a coach getting caught off guard by physical basketball. That's a pattern with her fingerprints all over it. And the real question is why White keeps ending up there every single time. An answer that traces back years before she ever coached a game in Indiana. We are united. We are connected. We will not be divided. Every day these women put their back on the line every day. When they go low, we go high. Love will win. Grace will win. Humility will win. And kindness will win. I stand by them. Here's where that leaked footage everyone's been talking about finally pays off. And it traces straight back to Connecticut. Before Indiana, before any of this, Stephanie White ran the Connecticut Sun for 2 seasons from 2023 to 2024. And Carrington played for her the entire time. That stretch wasn't just some forgettable line on a resume either. It was real success on the court, the kind that gets you noticed around the league. White won WNBA Coach of the Year during that run. And Carrington's physical, aggressive style sat right at the center of that defensive identity. So White didn't just witness Carrington's reputation as an enforcer from the other bench. She built it game by game, practice by practice for 2 full years, drawing up the exact schemes that let Carrington play right up against the line. That's the piece missing from every excuse White has given since the Cunningham hit. She wasn't a bystander to Carrington's aggression. Stephen A. Smith is the one who put this together for a national audience, and he didn't let it go quietly. He asked how a head coach standing right there on the sideline, actively coaching the game up and down the floor, somehow misses the one play everybody else in the building saw clean. His exact words, "How are you the head coach on the sideline during the play, covering the game, or coaching the game, and you didn't see the play? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm like, what do you mean you didn't see the play? What? You not watch it? We saw it. You're coaching the game up and down the court. It's your job to coach the game. Watch the game. How did you not see the play?" Smith also teased that there was something about Carrington that White had known for a long time and never said out loud. And that line alone sent fans digging until they found the second piece of footage. I knew it as an opponent. And I see it as her coach, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it just is what it is. Translation. White knew exactly what it took to slow Clark down back when she coached against her, and she's watched her own players use that same physicality against Clark ever since. Connect it all, and the picture gets uncomfortable fast. A coach who built Coach of the Year success on Carrington's aggression in Connecticut turns around years later and gets a front row seat as that same aggression puts her own player on the floor bleeding. And it's not just Carrington, either. Alyssa Thomas, Dana Bonner, Marina Mabury, players connected to White Circle keep showing up on the list of people delivering hard fouls against Clark and the Fever. That's not one bad night of officiating or one confusing camera angle. That's a coach whose fingerprints run through nearly every hard foul her own team has absorbed this season. What started with Caitlin Clark, and how that was viewed as somebody who's a fantastic player and a fantastic addition to the WNBA being resistant as it pertained to her presence in a league because of whatever feelings some had, not most, not all, but just some, has morphed into something entirely more significant. So, White's defense of Carrington was never about confusion. It was loyalty to a style of play she spent years building and profiting from. And once fans in Indiana understood that, her podium answer stopped sounding like a mistake and started sounding rehearsed, because in some sense it was. Go back to that image one more time. Cunningham on the floor bleeding and White jogging right past her to check on Carrington first. Now you know why. 2 years of Coach of the Year basketball built on that exact style, and old habits don't just disappear because she switched sidelines. Here's what's actually on the line now. Not with a window like this sitting wide open for 2026. Because the hope in Indiana was never about White. It's Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull, Cunningham. A group that's already shown it can win ugly and win big. So here's the real question heading into the playoffs. Does Stephanie White deserve to keep coaching this roster, or should she be fired? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications as we're bringing you all the action and top stories. Click the video on the screen and we'll see you in the next.